Welcome everyone on Monday, December 4th to the regular council session of the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc. The municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc acknowledges that it is located on Treaty 21 territory. We are thankful to the generations of people who have taken care of this land, including the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, and the Oneida Nation of the Thames. Roll call. Looks like everyone is present here this evening. Deputy Clerk. Someone to approve the agenda. Someone to bring the motion. Councillor Canis, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none. We have one delegation this evening. Brad Morrison from the Strathroy United Church is here to speak about a request amendments to the municipality's emergency response plan. Mr. Morrison, it's yours. And just a reminder, we do have, I think it's 5 minutes. So.
Your Worship, Mayor Grantham and Strathroy-Caradoc Municipal Councillors, thank you for including my proposal on tonight's agenda, and thank you for the opportunity to address you in person. Thanks to the people in the gallery here for support and those who are watching online. My name is Brad Morrison. I live here in Strathroy. Before I highlight the proposal before you, allow me to describe what other municipalities, what your council colleagues in neighboring towns are doing with municipal resources to address homelessness. In early November, Chatham-Kent Council passed a motion that directed admin staff to report back with a recommendation for a new homeless shelter, as well as operational and capital costs. Last week at Sarnia City Council, a city councillor proposed establishing a supervised tent city, knowing full well that the proposal would fail, but making the proposal to at least get City Hall talking about concrete action. In 2021, St. Thomas Elgin became a Built for Zero Canada community towards driving down occurrences of homelessness. And at their April council meeting this year, they proudly announced that St. Thomas Elgin achieved functional zero veteran homelessness. In September, Oxford County Council approved a 3-year strategic plan with a goal to eliminate homelessness. This summer, the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness celebrated Stratford, St. Mary's, and Perth County municipalities for successfully reducing the number of people experiencing chronic homelessness by 10% for 3 consecutive months. These municipalities stopped viewing homelessness as a moral failure and therefore best addressed by charities. These councils realized that homelessness is a civic responsibility for municipalities to address. These municipalities stopped viewing homelessness as a criminal issue and therefore best addressed by police forces. They realized that homelessness is a civic responsibility for municipalities to address. These municipalities stopped viewing homelessness action initiatives and programs from a risk management lens, where the first fiduciary instinct is to avoid risk or transfer risk elsewhere. These councils realize that homelessness is a civic responsibility for municipalities to address. Municipal councils across the province are beginning to understand that they are not only stewards of the money, but first and foremost, they're stewards of the many. This proposal before you is the smallest, simplest step that I could imagine for Strathroy-Caradoc as a municipality, as a council, as councillors, to pull a lever that you have your hand on to make a policy change that commits municipal property and staff resources to one thin slice of a much larger problem. And perhaps as you read this proposal to amend the municipality's emergency response plan, you worried that this step could start a slippery slope towards the municipality committing even more municipal resources to address homelessness? If so, then you're reading the proposal correctly. I hope that, like other regional municipalities, we discover that active experimentation with municipal resources will raise our comfort level with addressing the homelessness issue. I applaud and support the encouragement that this council provides to community initiatives like the Homelessness Action Committee and 37 Frank Youth Center. But there are dimensions to homelessness that our community charities and social sector organizations are not equipped or positioned to address. I offer this proposal to amend the municipality's emergency response plan, specifically related to extreme cold warning alerts as defined by Environment Canada as one lever Strathroy-Caradoc municipality that you can pull. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Pammer? Comments? Yep. Questions, comments?
Thank you. Thank you, Brad. I think that, personally, I'm not opposed. I don't think it's a bad suggestion to use the facilities in this way, but I would like to see a plan come from the greater community, from perhaps the Middlesex Housing Advisory Council or the Homelessness Council, where we would be working in partnership. I think for the municipality to take this on its own would be a lot, but I think that we could have a role to play with other community resources in coming up with some creative solutions. That's just my feeling.
Nope. We'll go with Councillor Hippel, then Councillor Brennan.
Thank you again. Just to comment, kind of to add on to Donna's, I agree with Councillor Pammer, because I think we need to, it can't be just us. This is such an important project, and I mean, oh my gosh, they're human beings. We know this, we see this, but CMHA needs to be involved, and Middlesex, we are a part of Middlesex County. There is a lot of municipalities within Middlesex County, and I mean, I'm so pleased to hear that Oxford County and St. Thomas Elginford County, we're very successful in this, but the conversation kept coming back to the counties. No, we are a municipality within a county, so I think this is where the partnership needs to come into play. That's just my comment. Doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just my comment.
Yeah. Councillor Brennan, then Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I do remember in 2010 during Snowmageddon that our municipality reacted with great enthusiasm and wonderful force, and we had two centers in town. I think one was the Gemini Sportsplex and the other was one of the churches in town when Highway 402 was shut down. And at that time, our municipality, in this extreme weather situation, was able to provide shelter to many truck drivers up at the Gemini largely, and many, I guess, families and drivers of cars over at one of the community churches. And I think this went on for several days, and we had a great deal of cooperation by staff and other agencies in town. I do not see why we could not extend our current policy to include extreme cold weather alerts, because we have the proven capacity to do something in a weather emergency for people on Highway 402. And I would think that in an extreme weather alert where we have -30 temperatures, we'd be able to do the same for people who reside within our own municipality. So I would be interested in pursuing this policy change at a future meeting. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in just response to a couple of the councillors' comments, actually this evening at the County Council report, I have some numbers because we just heard about it at our November 21st meeting from the county, so I will be able to present to you some numbers and give you some insight about just what the county is doing and what we are doing within the county on some of these issues, not this exact issue, but on some of the homelessness prevention and community housing and really what's going on in the county, what's going on in Strathroy, that just might be insightful, because we are not on an island to ourselves here. We are a two-tier government system. And a lot of this doesn't have to be at the upper tier, but a lot of this is at the upper tier at the county level.
Councillor Pelton.
Yes, thank you. I'm not really going to comment to the issue because it's such a complex issue, but just in response to Councillor Brennan's comments, there's a difference between a winter storm event and a cold weather event, because in a cold weather event without the winter snow, we're still running hockey and we're still running prep programs, whereas on the situation that you talked about, the arenas and everything were closed. So it's just something to remember that we may have stuff still happening at these centers while we're considering using them as warming centers.
Any others? Thank you. Mr. Morrison, I have a question. I think early in our term in council, the zoning was changed to allow churches or faith-based groups to create warming centers. I just wonder, where's that and why can't we get some traction that way?
Sure. Your question relates to warming centers. This proposal is specifically not about warming centers, but using the municipality's resources in the emergency response plan. I hear the comments about partnership. You're asking the community to come to you, requesting a partnership, or this is something that belongs in the hands of the municipality, the emergency response plan. It's not a county document. It's not a community document. It's something that only this council can amend. And so I want to keep that in view. I guess in response to your question, the council here knows the challenges of having the municipality get involved in warming centers. And so I would hope that those of you who belong to churches have already approached your churches, now that you know that there's changes in the zoning, to encourage your churches to mount some response to this issue.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to ask the deputy mayor to take the chair for a minute so I can bring a motion. We'll kill myself.
I'll take the rest of the night.
You can have it all. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I didn't know I was going to do this, and I understand the procedure, but after hearing Mr. Morrison's request, we asked for staff reports on a lot of things. So I'd like to bring a motion to simply have a staff report done on the possibility of using municipal buildings in weather emergency. So I'd like to bring that motion, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do we have a seconder? Mr. Kennis, Councillor Kennis. And question from Councillor Brennan.
I do have a question. There have been many requests for staff reports over the last year. So through the chair to our CIO, I'd like to ask, currently how many staff reports are in the queue, and how long does it take with so many staff reports in the queue, in the line, before we actually get one back? Because I think we've asked for quite a few of these. And I'm not opposed to the mayor's idea of getting a staff report, but I'm starting to become mindful of staff time and the resources that are being devoted to writing staff reports, as opposed to maybe doing the business as directed by council other than reports.
Sorry, so, Chair. Through the chair to Councillor Brennan. So currently, we track all the resolutions. There's approximately about 30 to 35 resolutions for further information staff that are currently on the go. In regards to time, it depends on the nature of the report. I would certainly say staff takes the time to, some reports take longer than others, but I would say we have a lot on the go. And I will say either the agendas are going to become longer, or it's going to take a little bit longer to get some of these reports back from council, or back in front of council.
Other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor that's properly seconded. All in favor? I see 1, 2, actually I don't think I voted as the chair. 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed. 4, and I voted in favor. So it passed. That motion passed, thank you.
Could you make sure about that? Be careful.
Absolutely, yeah, don't fall into me.
I think you're in it, right here.
Thank you for that, Mr. Morrison. We'll now move on to notice of motion. We have 3, but they're not to be voted on this evening. We will discuss those and vote those at the next meeting. The first public meeting is considered an application for the rezoning for the property located at 21861 Cooks Road. A motion to open the public meeting. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Wilsey. All in favor? Carried. Director Huff, I don't know if you're gonna, oh, there's Tim Williams, so we'll let Tim Williams carry it. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, member of council. I'm going to try to share my screen with the application, but just give me one moment. Always a little bit of a technical difficulty when I start out here. Sorry about that. Wanting to share. Promise. There we go. That should come up in a moment. So this is a temporary rezoning application that is before council. The temporary nature of the application is to allow for a second detached dwelling on the property for a temporary period of time while the house is being constructed. So the application is located in the rural area of Strathroy-Caradoc, south of Longwoods Road, on the west side of Cooks Road, just a handful of properties south of Longwoods. This is a property that's currently zoned A1 and has a number of agricultural operations around it. Along Longwoods, as you will know, there are a number of residential and commercial operations there as well. The proposal is to place the residential dwelling near the back portion of the property. You can see in yellow on this plan the location of the proposal, and I can say that in red at the top corner here is the location of the existing home, which would stay for the next year or less if the house is constructed faster. That's the same thing, just a little bit larger, just in case you didn't see it quite right on the first version of the plan. So the report, the staff report, contains staff and agency comments. The statutory public meeting is this evening, so there may be comments that come from this meeting. I can say that the staff report contains the details about the policy and analysis for this project, and it's seeking to temporarily permit that second dwelling on the property. So staff are recommending approval of the proposed rezoning. A draft version of the zoning bylaw amendment is on tonight's agenda for council's consideration, and just as a technical note, there is a 20-day appeal period for amendments starting from the date in which the notice is issued. So that's what I have. I'm available for any comments that anyone would have.
Thank you, Tim. Are there any comments in support of the proposed rezoning? Seeing none, are there any comments in opposition to the proposed rezoning? Seeing Seeing none, any comments and questions from members of council? Seeing none, I have a motion to close the public meeting. Pardon me? I'm sorry, Greg, hands gotta go up a little higher there, Greg.
Yeah, I put it up a little bit late too, part of that's my
Okay,
fault.
well, there you go.
My only question was on the 1 year timeline, just knowing the construction and some of the delays we've had. Are we, or is the builder or the homeowner sure that we can complete everything, or they can complete everything in 1 year? I know there's been some delays with materials and a few other things. I don't necessarily have an issue, I'm just wondering if that 1 year is short.
Was there a question in that, Councillor Wilsey, to maybe Director Huff, or?
Just to either to Director Huff or Tim, if one of you could speak to that, if 1 year is long enough, if we need to make that longer, or if we're happy with that being 1 year.
Either Tim or Director Huff?
If I understand the question correctly, it was of the proposed construction and whether this would be enough time, if I misunderstood.
Yeah, that's correct, Tim. I'm just wondering if 1 year is enough, if we need to go longer, or if you think the homeowner could finish the construction within that year.
The expectation is the year. That was what was requested. Hopefully they wouldn't be coming back for an additional year, but that was the expectation, that it would take the year. And that's what we went forward with. The applicant is not the owner. The applicant is the construction consultant or the construction general contractor. So I have a feeling that they are aware of their timelines and that they can work within this timeline.
Any other questions? Seeing none, there are three motions. I think we can bring them all together. First motion is a report BBP-2023. Oh, who did that? Recommendation to close the public meeting. Councillor Pelkman, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. Now we'll move to the motions. Three motions. First, a report BBP 2023 regarding ZBA 2023 be received by council. Also, that the rezoning application ZBA 4-2023, which would rezone the lands municipally known as 21861 Cooks Road to allow for two dwellings for a maximum time frame of 1 year, be approved, and that bylaw 98-23 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda. Someone to bring the motion? Councillor Hippel, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. Any questions? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Public meeting number 2, motion to open the public meeting. Someone to bring a motion? Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Leave it to you again, Tim.
Pardon me. Just all sorts of technical things this morning, this evening. I muted myself just as I was about to speak. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is an application for a rezoning on a property at 6919 Calvert Drive. It's on the south side of Calvert Drive. And this is an application that was before council in the previous session, so that would be 2018. But what I'll start with is the location. As I say, it's a rural area. It's on the south side of Calvert. It's just west of Glen Oak. It's amongst a number of agricultural properties that contain residents on most of those homes. There's on the north side of the street here, a surplus farm dwelling severances, a couple of them, and that gives you an idea of the general nature of the neighborhood. So this next slide shows the proposal, and I won't go into great detail. The proposal is all laid out in the application material. But I will say that the yellow portion at the rear of the site plan is an expansion of the operation, and there's the request to recognize the lane that now goes from Albert Drive over to, and makes a left hand over to the existing open storage and current shop. The way that this is calculated or considered in the number that is shown on the screen, that 4.8, is that this portion is paired with the existing farm operation. It's only 50% of the area is calculated as being attributed to this open contractor's yard and the open storage expansion. And then this entire driveway portion is considered a part of the contractor's yard as a result of the fact that the only purpose for it is to connect to it. The details of the application, most specifically, is that the request is to expand from the existing approval from 2018, which was a 2% open storage, 1,942 square meters, up to the 4,645 that's now being requested. This is based on the site plan numbers that were provided with the application materials. So the existing operation received site plan approval, and at that time, the access to the operations were from the lane or access point that was also shared by the house. And the farm operation, farm access was just used for farm access. So it's just a slight change to the way that the proposal is from before to now. This is just a slightly larger version. Staff included a copy of the site plan in the attachments for the material, so if any of these details or sizes are too small, you could always review the report and associated attachments. So in terms of consultation, staff did circulate the application to all the different agencies. One of those agencies that were contacted was the county engineer, and the report, I misunderstood some of the words that came from the county engineer, and so my report says that there was a permit being reviewed by the county engineer, and that isn't correct. The county engineer approved a access point here for only farm access, and that was done on November 1st. The county engineer was not aware of the fact that the request was for also the industrial use or commercial use, depending on which way you'd like to refer to it, because the application form had some parts checked that it was for only a farm access, and in other spots had other information. So what was issued was a permit for a farm access, and so there isn't one being reviewed at this time for an industrial, for the contractor's yard. The other item is that there were other comments from different departments, but that is all found within the report. So tonight is the statutory public meeting, so members of the community have an opportunity to speak to the item. Council has questions as well. I would note that from a policy perspective, all of the details are found within the report, but there are a couple of different points on this particular application. Because I'm recommending denial, I just want to quickly say one thing about each of these different areas. The provincial policy statement has a limited on-farm diversified use. This would fit within that category of what's referred to as an on-farm diversified use, meaning it needs to be on a farm, it needs to be, or it can be any type of use, provided that it's less than 2% of the lands that are being occupied by that use. It also needs to ensure that it's not having a detrimental effect on agricultural uses on the property and on adjacent properties. And that, to a certain extent, extends to the county official plan that looks at agricultural areas in the same sort of vein. It looks to protect agricultural operations, and it looks at a second test, and that second test is that this use cannot reasonably be located in a settlement area, and that it needs to be in proximity of farming operations or activities. Now that's slightly different, but it does create a slightly higher bar. And then when we get to the local official plan, the one that is currently in effect for the property does not reflect the OPA 14, which was done to consolidate and align itself with the provincial policy statement. So there's some pieces there that are slightly different, but it does have a list. It does request or require that agricultural protection be at paramount. And then secondly, that it meet a number of specific criteria, one of which is that there only be one employee from off-site. When we get down to the zoning bylaw, that same criteria is slightly different, and it actually says that 3 employees a maximum of 3 employees can be from off-site. And then it has other criteria as well, but I think that this gives you just sort of a high-level review of what's already in the staff report. I will note that the applicant made notes to me on Friday after reviewing the application, and obviously she's available to or able to speak to the application, but I did want to note that in my report I spoke about the fact that there are 4 employees that are a part of the family, and they, are required to live on the property, and that they're at any given time in the past they've had a maximum of 2 people living that are not living on the property be employed by the operations, so that. My remarks in the report noted that it seems possible with the expansion that there might be the potential for more employees, or over time, if the employees that were there that do work on the operation, they may not all live on this property over time. So, in summary, staff are recommending a refusal of the proposed rezoning. Council's decision is being requested this evening, and there, on a technical level, there is a 20-day appeal period on any decision made by council starting on the date in which the notice is issued. I'm available for comments or questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Tim. Are there any comments in support of the proposed rezoning?
I would just like to add
Yeah,
something.
you come and just identify yourself and turn the microphone on so we can hear you. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Louie. I'm the owner, and I live at the property. In regards to the County of Middlesex entrance permit, which I did not have prior, did not realize I needed it because they had done construction on the roadway and then they put the culvert in. I did forward this to Tim on Friday, like he was saying. So in my application, when I put it in, the reason for the new access that I requested was for two uses for this entrance. The first was for the contractor yard shop to gain access to the shop storage area, and the second one was for the agriculture entrance. Behind us, farther south, there's farm property and they're landlocked, so they have to use our entrance. So when I did put the application through, that's what I got, and then I have the entrance permit. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, but according to me, I have access to use that through the county. I don't know if somebody wants to see it, but I did email it to Tim and I believe Mrs. Huff was on there also. But I just want to add that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yep. Are there any comments in opposition of the proposed rezoning? Any comments or questions from members of council? Councillor Derbyshire.
Thank you. I'll just get this started. I don't quite understand this. If we had the land for them to buy to build yards somewhere around town, you know, but we don't want that kind of stuff up in our industry. Up there, we don't want to make construction yards. So where are these people supposed to do this kind of stuff? Like, to me, it sounds like a family-run business. Maybe most of them don't live at home. I really think when we talk about protecting farmland, I'm a farmer. This isn't gonna protect the farmland we wanna protect. You know, this isn't like it's a huge acre piece of dirt that, you know, everybody's clamoring to get. We're not stopping developers from buying farmland. So, you know, when we talk about protecting farmland, to me, this is, just add it to it, tax them accordingly. You know, we'll probably get more money out of the first 3 years of it being this than we will out of the next 25 of it being farmland. So I don't quite understand why we go through the whole heartache of this thing here with people. You know, it's, I don't get it. I mean, to me, I would put forward that we expand their lot if you're looking for an opposite motion. But right now, I don't see why this wouldn't be done. We can either do it legally, or they will probably start doing it anyways, which then now we're policing it and trying to correct it from that standpoint. So, in my opinion, I think we should give it to them.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Canis.
I guess I understand exactly what Councillor Derbyshire is saying, but for me, I look at it as sort of a precedent-setting type of situation. If we do this, does that open the door for others to do the same? And that would be, I guess, a bit of a question as well. If we do it once, do we set a precedent?
Yeah, Councillor Derbyshire, then Councillor Brennan. I'd just like to answer.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I think it actually would be a good precedent to set, because I think right now we have a bunch of them that are out there that aren't. They're just parking equipment, piling stuff here, there, and everywhere, and we're out policing or trying to stop what's going on. So I would rather have it where it's easier to have. I don't wanna sound like I'm against farmland, it's just, we're really, when you look around, we're not Park Hill, where they're 100-acre massive farms stretching from side road to side road, right? We're 50-acre farms with a whole lot of residential around us. So that's all I would say. I think if we can make it easier for some of these guys, they probably would do it the right way.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
I guess through the chair to the staff member who might know the most about this, I'm not sure, it might be Director Huff, I'm not sure. With regard to the statement that we don't want to have construction yards up in the north end, do we have land zoned in our municipality that would be suitable for construction yards if people were looking for land for construction yards at this point?
Director Huff.
Thank you, Worship, to Councillor Brennan. So it might be that the lands that we own, we hope that we have a higher order of employment for the sale of those lands, but there are certainly privately held industrial properties that are zoned to permit contractor yards. So yes, there are.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Pelkman?
Yes, thank you. Just not a question, but a comment. I'm kind of on both sides on this one. On one hand, you know, I've always made the comment that, you know, if you're going to have equipment and toys, then you need to own a piece of property that will hold that equipment and toys, rather than be it in a place where it's an eyesore or bothersome to the neighbors. And that would be the case here. Certainly, it's out in the country and it's, well, close to the urban area. It's not in the urban area. In terms of the use of land, there's more area taken up by the setback of the house and the amount of grass they cut than the actual yard that they're proposing. However, they had agreed to a certain size use of property and then very quickly used more. So in some ways, this would be a correction of the amount of space that they are using. We want to encourage business and not deter them, but at the same time, we need to make them play within the rules. That's why I'm kind of on both sides on this one. At the end of the day, I think given the nature of the type of business that it is, it's probably this property is appropriate for it, even though we're setting some dangerous precedents in terms of having the two driveways and perhaps allowing businesses to quickly overextend what they're allowed to use. What I would caution though is that at some point, if you're having a business on your own piece of property, you need to decide if it's appropriate time for it to move it or not. And so I don't know if this is that point or how much bigger they intend to get. But I would, if we do grant this, I would say this is the last granting. And after that, then, you know, the size of this business would be beyond the scope that this property should be holding. It should be an industrial section after that.
Any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to say, I think listening to all the comments, Councillor Derbyshire is really swayed where I was sitting on this. I think this type of business, what we're talking about that's going on this property, I can think of two other similar type businesses in our municipality. In the Strathroy local, I can't think of any down specifically in the Mount Bridges area, but I'm sure there's some there too. But two of those, this one and another one, exist in the farm type area. The other one is taken over an old business in one of those little awkward places that those awkward properties that really don't get used a whole lot, but there's not much of that type of land in the community. So I'm leaning with Councillor Derbyshire, like, if we don't want them to do this on a 50-acre parcel of land, where exactly do we want them? Because we've heard that we don't want them up in the North End Industrial Park because that's all service land, and that's employment land, and, you know, that's high-valued land that we don't want to have taken up with piles of dirt, which makes perfect sense to me. So I'm glad that Councillor Derbyshire raised his points, because I think they're extremely valid.
Any other questions or comments? If you'll indulge me, I'm gonna weigh in because I'm surprised to see this, because this is one that I've thought about for some time about the use, and I'll just say I agree with Councillor Derbyshire. I know the rural area as much as anyone, and there's certainly area for this, so if it was up to me, I would pass this. But any other questions? Seeing none, motion to close the public meeting. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Caddis. All in favor? Carried. So we'll do this one at a time through the motions. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Caddis, second by Councillor Derbyshire. All in favor? Carried. We'll deal with the motion as it reads. Motion to deny, let me just read this right here. I'll read it. To the rezoning application ZBA 4-2023, which would rezone the lands municipally known as 21-861. Wait a minute. I apologize. You gotta flip the page. I will read it. That the rezoning application ZBA 2023, which would rezone the lands municipally known as 6919 Calvert Drive, expand the existing contractor's yard, be denied. Someone to bring the motion? Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor of denying the motion? One. Motion is defeated. Does anyone wish to bring another motion? Councillor Wilsey.
We're getting used to the microphone on the other side. I would bring the same motion, but be approved.
Okay. For the rezoning application ZBA 20-2023, which would rezone the lands municipally known as 6919 Calvert Drive, expand the existing contractor's yard, be approved. So that's your motion, Councillor Wilsey. Seconder, Councillor Pammer. All in favor? Carried. Last motion. Oh, we don't need that. Correct?
Oh, Jen has a question.
Director Hoff.
Sorry, I just wanted to interject for a minute. So it would be important to consider the last resolution in terms of getting council's reasons for their decisions on the books in the event there is an appeal. Council would want to have the reasons available to defend their decision. Thank you.
Can I just interject? I just wonder why this is a public meeting and
I got an answer.
Yep, Councillor Pelkman, go ahead, help me out here.
Yep. So I would suggest that the reason for this would be the lack of available employment lands within the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc to house such a business, that we have to look at alternative sources of property to allow businesses that are already in existence to continue to flourish.
Thank you. CAO McKibben.
Through the chair, if I could also just clarify, from a procedural standpoint on any planning decision like this, it is very wise for council to give, whether it's an approval or a denial, the reasons for it, because if there is an appeal, then those are the reasons that get put on the record. And so if there are no reasons for council's decision in support or against, makes it very hard to defend council's decision. So it is my recommendation, and as Director Huff said, that the reasons for council decision in matters like this, they're always recorded, and it's just so that there's a record on paper if there's an appeal for it to be defended.
Okay, Councillor Brennan.
Just a point of order, I wasn't given an opportunity to vote against that last motion.
You apologize for that.
So I would like to be recorded, like, I wasn't recorded vote, but.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go with the reasons for approving the rezoning application include, do you want to reiterate that back, Councillor Falkman?
Given the strength of our employment land sales as of late and our depleting inventory of available lands, that we have to look at alternative sites, and as this business is already in existence, it would make more sense to expand this business on its current site than it would be to try and find new employment lands currently within the municipality.
Okay, anyone wish to add to that? Councillor Kennis.
I'm not sure it's appropriate to add, but I think it's also a small acreage, like it's not a large industrial type of business, so it's a small acreage. I don't know if that could be somehow added in as well, but I think that, to me, is, yeah, that's the reason I would have supported it, so.
Were you able to capture that, Deputy Clerk? Yeah, Deputy Mayor McGuire.
I'm just reviewing some of the documents that are in front of us. So I think one of the reasons is that we are maintaining agriculture as the predominant use of the land, which is that's just one of the criteria that appears in the PPS and our OP.
Okay, do you have sufficient?
Yeah, just to clarify the mover and seconder.
Did we have a mover?
Councillor
Councillor Pelkman, seconder, Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Councillor Brennan, duly noted. Thank you. Now move to the approval of minutes, the regular council meeting minutes of November 20th, 23. Motion that the regular council meeting minutes of November 20th be approved as written. Someone to bring the motion, Councillor Kennis, seconded Councillor Pammer. Any questions or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now move to item 8, drainage matters. 8.1 is the Barron Drain. We have a motion that the council adopt the engineer's report for the Barron Drain 2023 and give first and second reading to provisional bylaw 89-23 for the project. Motion, Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Derbyshire. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. 8.2, the Winters Drain 2023. Motion that council adopt the engineer's report for the Winters Drain 2023 and give first, second reading to provisional bylaw number 92-23 for the project. Someone to bring the motion? Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Kennis. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Item 9 is our communications. There are 5 in front of us this evening. First motion to receive the communications. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. Any councillor wish to speak to any of them? Councillor Derbyshire.
Can I pull the first one? Is it 9-1?
Yep. Any others? Okay. Councillor Derbyshire.
On 9-1. It is the virtual public meeting for the settlement thing. Obviously, we're probably too late now at this point, I guess. My question or comment on this would be, can we not do an in-person one of these? It seems like for the amount of people that want to be involved in this, this could end up being a online nightmare by the sounds of it. I don't know. I just know from the phone calls and emails I've received of people that would like to learn, listen, or be part of it. It sounds like we're going to have an awful lot of people.
Okay, sorry, you want to reiterate, Councillor Hippel?
I do, thank you. I'm glad that he brought that up because there has been a number of people that are struggling with how they're going to do this. And I mean, an in-person meeting, it just, again, it may be too late, but it would just make sense. And sometimes it's so much easier to get that information across and questions asked and such in person. It's, yeah, anyways, we're getting a lot of questions about this.
Okay, I think I'll defer to CEO McKibben if you could, or Director Huff, whoever want to tackle that one.
If I could, maybe I'll allow Director Huff to speak to it first and then I can follow up.
Yep, Director Huff.
Thank you, Worship, to Council. So the idea with the virtual session is really to just, number one, get the information out to the public and provide an opportunity for comments, but it won't be the only opportunity for the public to comment. So we are planning to have a live special meeting of council, actually, specifically for the opportunity to have the information presented to council, but also provide the public an opportunity to speak to council and provide their comments directly to council as well. So those are the two options that we have currently, but certainly if there's desire for more, we can take that back. We would just, there would be some budget considerations to that as well.
Yep, Councillor Hippel.
Thank you through yourself to Director Huff. Is there a way when we do that particular one that we could, I mean, I don't feel that we would be able to fit everyone here. Is do we have a spot that would perhaps fit everyone that would be involved? Because it would be pretty tight for everyone that would like to have questions or have questions.
Yep, Director Huff.
That's certainly something that we can consider as a larger location to accommodate the group. Yeah.
CEO McKibben, did you have follow-up?
And I just wanted to, and following along what Director Huff said, this is the public information session. It's not the like it's not the public meeting on this, so this is sort of the first opportunity to present the information out. And as Director Huff said, then there'll be some follow-up meetings regarding this item. So this is sort of the first step.
Councillor Derbyshire.
I guess I understand that. I know when you say we're going to present it to council and then people can kind of come at council. At the information session, I think it would be easier for people to speak directly to the people that have put this together and the directors, as opposed to the horseshoe here where you're going to now ask councillors to answer some questions that we're then going to say we have to refer to the head of the department. I just think an information session is probably better done on a larger scale at, I'm going to say somewhere like a community center, where you can sit up there as a panel and answer the questions. And I mean, we can be there, but it doesn't have to be council. Like really, we're just kind of the vehicle that they use to drive through. Whereas if you had a meeting sitting there, you guys can answer the public directly. They can stand up at a mic and say, I have a question about this, this, or this. That, to me, how I would see a public information and kind of gathering session go, as opposed to sitting in this room where they stand back there and come up and ask questions through us. But, man, I'm wrong again.
I'm just gonna comment, I don't think you're wrong, Councillor Derbyshire, and I hadn't really considered this, but in listening to everybody and knowing it's predominantly Ward 2, and I'm sure, you know, the people in Ward 1 have the same concerns. I think it would behoove us to find a way to, we're here for information and transparency and accountability, so I think if we could find a way to make it happen, we certainly should. There's no harm in trying, but it's the only Kevin that I know. Councillor Pelk, yep.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing then from council is you would like this meeting to be in person instead of virtual. Is that what I'm hearing from council then?
Yep. We'll go. Yeah, Councillor Pelkman, then yes.
Now I'll chime in. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I think it would be wise to have this information session where it's not really about public feedback, and then have a session with public feedback. My preference would be to have a similar style to what we did for the Mount Bridges Arena Committee, rather than have us sitting on a stage answering questions. I think it would be better to have one-on-one interaction with people where they're free to ask questions without fear of standing in front of 100 people.
Yes. Councillor Brennan, you had your hand up.
Well, I guess I'm going to agree with Councillor Pelkman. A public information meeting where the information is presented to the public and everybody has time to listen to it, and then take that information away with them, digest it, live with it for a while, talk amongst themselves, and then have a meeting where people come with well-considered questions after having thought about the material and studied it, I think would probably be much more productive.
Councillor Canis.
I agree with everything that's been said. If we're going to have live meetings, I wonder, just because you're talking about two separate areas, whether it'd be better to have two separate meetings, like one for the Mount Bridges settlement area and one for the Strathroy settlement area, because, yeah, who knows how many people are there, and if there are questions being asked about one and then somebody starts on the other place, and just trying to keep the two separate, would that make more sense? So.
Okay. Any other, real quick, you have one, Councillor Derbyshire, then we'll.
The only thing I will say this, the arena thing was fine, other than you have nobody else has any idea what somebody else said, right? So then we just go by, well, I'd heard people say they liked it, I heard they didn't. We're at a 50% rate that they want the community center dropped, they don't want it dropped, whereas if you have to sit there and people, if you don't want to ask your question because you don't want to go up to the mic, then don't go up to the mic. If your question's that important, you'll get up to the mic and you'll ask it. That's just, and I think that way the whole room hears the answer and hears the question, and, maybe that answers 10 people's question. And maybe it doesn't answer anybody's, but.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. I believe we need to do something different, so I won't ask for a staff report, but I don't need something like that, but I wonder if we would agree for CAO McKibben and Director Huff to just put together a communication plan that may include live sessions. I don't think we need anything to, yep, Councilor.
Just one question. How did we do it before the internet?
I can't remember.
But maybe go back to that. We all think technology is great, which it is on some hands. On the other hand, it distances us so far from community engagement that.
Okay. Any other? Councilor Brennan.
Just through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire, I agree, we did do it before the internet. I think what we might be able to do is if we did have the information session, which was a virtual thing, and then we had two separate in-place meetings, one for Ward 1, one for Ward 2, as hybrid meetings where we could have the experts or individuals who are reporting, they could be online. And we could have people show up and we'd all be there and ask questions. But I think the idea behind the internet and the hybrid meetings is that it allows us to have experts come into the meeting without having to travel and take 8 hours to come there and back. And I think we save a lot of money in hybrid meetings in terms of billable hours by experts. I think that's part of what we're doing.
All right, so we've asked this, we'll ask CAO to quickly put together just a basis of a communication plan. Any other communications? Councillor Kenneth.
Just a question, like, just to give us an idea of what's sort of the time frame on this. I mean, we started about a year ago, but like, is there an anticipated time frame to the end of this project? And
overall,
what is that? Yeah.
Director Huff.
That's a good question. That time frame keeps changing. So we were hopeful maybe to get a decision in spring. If we accommodate a couple more consultation meetings, that will certainly impact that timing. So it's a moving target, and we just kind of keep adjusting as needs and additional things come up. So that's where we're heading.
Okay. One, Councillor.
Yeah, just to follow up, and I don't think there's a major rush here, so I think we should do it methodically and get it right. So.
Yep. Okay, any other communications anyone wishes to discuss? See none, we had a second and motion to receive the communication items. All in favor of receiving them? Opposed, if any? Carried. See no unfinished business. Reports from legal and legislative services, and this will be CAO McKibben. Recommendation that report LLS 2023, which is council member appointments to committee of adjustment, be received for information. All in favor of receiving the report? Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. CAO McKibben, did you want to speak to the report?
Thank you, Your Worship. In front of you, you have the report and a recommendation regarding the appointment to the Committee of Adjustments for the upcoming year of 2024, and it's to continue those that are currently sitting on it, which is Deputy Mayor McGuire, Councillor Derbyshire, Councillor Kennis, and Councillor Peckman. So it's just that formality of extending that term, and happy to answer any questions from Council.
Any questions? Seeing none, we have a motion that Deputy Mayor Mike McGuire, Councillors Brian Derbyshire, Frank Kennis, and Steve Palkman be appointed to represent the Municipal Council on the Committee of Adjustments for the upcoming year 2024. Motion to approve. Motion, Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Next is the proposed schedule, financial services, proposed schedule of fees and charges. Recommendation to receive the report for information. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. I believe this will be Director Dakin. Did you want to speak to the report first?
Thank you. Through the chair to council. So before you is the report on the 2024 proposed fees and schedules. It's an annual report brought for council to approve the fees that will be charged, which also will help build the 2024 budget. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Councillor Wilsey.
I've got two. I'll start with the easy one first. On the wheelie bins for the waste collection, I don't see any difference for the producer pay system that's being rolled out with the recycle bins. The municipality no longer, or well, producers have to pay for it starting April 1st. And it looks like all the bins are full charge. There's nothing prorated for just a 3-month term. I don't know if that's going to be reflected or when we're going to see that. I'll come back with the second one after.
Yeah. Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire, I'm gonna, Councillor Wilsey, I'm gonna push that over to Director Strauss. My understanding is that basically we don't pay for the recycling bins, therefore they're not reflected in this, but he can confirm that.
Director Strauss.
Thank you, through the chair to Councillor Wilsey. Once the municipality actually receives the actual fees that we are going to be charging out, then we would roll those out. At this time, I'm anticipating that'll be in 2025.
Okay. Any other second follow-up, Councillor Wilsey?
Just knowing I'm on the board for the Blue Water Recycling Agency, I was told that staff knew what the fees were going to be in October, and that their billing would be changing as of April 1st, and that staff should be aware of that. So I'm a little bit confused by the 2025 comment.
Director Strauss.
Thank you, through the chair to Councillor Wilsey. Staff have not received what our charges are for that yet.
Okay. We can follow up that. You had a second question, Councillor Wilsey?
My second question was just to do with the development charges and how much they've gone up. I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at neighboring municipalities. Specifically, I just did a little bit of looking online and compared some of them. With looking at next year's charges, if the Glendon corridor keeps getting extended down from Middlesex Center down into Strathroy-Caradoc into Mount Bridges, we are actually going to be, their development charges are only going to be 64% of ours, even when you put in the building permits and everything else for, and I base this on a 5,000 square foot building, nothing too big. But when I'm looking at that, if we want to expand our commercial footprint and our industrial, depending on where we're putting it, whether we're looking at with Strathroy or Mount Bridges, all of our fees are higher than the neighbors. I compared us to Ingersoll, I compared us to, which was similar to Strathroy in size as far as the city. I compared us to Middlesex Center, who's our neighbor. On all of them, we are significantly higher. And then the other question we're looking for is an explanation as to why Mount Bridges is 37% higher than Strathroy as far as the development charges.
Director Dakin? Or CEO McKibben? I apologize.
If I may, if council is okay for Director Huff to respond to these questions.
Director Huff.
Thank you, Worship. So I'll do my best to respond, and I'm sure Director of Finance can correct me if I get offside. So a little bit of history on Mount Bridges. Even going back to our 2015 development charge bylaw, that's municipal-wide bylaw, but it includes area-specific charges that are different between Strathroy and Mount Bridges. And even at that point in time, there was about a 30% difference between Mount Bridges and Strathroy. And although I'm not an expert, I think that is in part due to the fact that when capital projects happen in Mount Bridges, they're more development-related, development-driven than those in Strathroy, because we already have so much development, and a lot of the capital projects are also not only new, but expanding and extending. And so that scenario has happened for many years. Every year when we do our updates to the development charge bylaw, we have Hempson Consulting, who has done an extensive study of the capital requirements for our municipality. And they come to council and they present an extensive report. It includes comparables of where we are in terms of the various charges, whether it's residential, industrial, and commercial. And they provide that to council at the time that they make the recommendations for the charges. And so this And as well as the costs change for those projects. So in 2015, a lot of the costs that were in our development charge bylaw actually reflected projects that were constructed back in 2006, 2009, 2011. Then when you think of us putting together estimates on capital projects going forward from 2015 onwards, those costs are significantly greater. And what ends up happening as municipalities update their development charges, it depends on where they are in their schedule. So if we're the first ones out of the post in 2025 to update our development charges, we're going to have higher development charges because of the fact that our construction estimates are based on real costs that are current compared to existing development charges in other municipalities that reflect previous year's costs. And so there are times when our development charges are a little bit higher, but I can assure you, whenever Hampson comes forward with our comparables, we are in the middle of the pack generally for our charges relative to not only area, local areas, but areas that are of comparable sizes in other locations. And so, again, in 2018, well, it started in 2017, we foresaw a number of developers picking up the last developable properties in Mount Bridges that required extensive infrastructure requirements. And because the municipal-wide charge wasn't scheduled for an update, we decided to do a separate DC study only to reflect the required infrastructure projects necessary in Mount Bridges. We didn't think it was fair at the time to open up the Strathroy-Caradoc municipal-wide development charge at the time to accommodate that, so we did an area-specific one. And so that's the one on the books, and the intent is that as soon as we're completed our servicing master plan, again, we'll update both our DC bylaws to reflect all of the capital projects identified in that master plan and update the costs of the infrastructure, which will increase the cost of our development charges. But, I mean, those are the costs of development, and if we don't have development charges, what it means is the cost of those infrastructure projects get put onto the general taxpayer, and growth doesn't pay for growth. The taxpayer that doesn't benefit ends up paying for that growth. And so this has been, I think if I'm summarizing that correctly, over the last couple of years, that's been the approach of council, is trying to be proactive and ensure that development pays for development going forward.
Okay. Just follow up then, Deputy Mayor. Okay. Councillor Wilsey.
Yeah, I hear that, and I'm listening to what you're saying, but we have to be competitive, and we have to make sure that we're paying for it. But I'm looking at the numbers, and if I just look on just the industrial and commercial, which is what we're focused on in the strategic plan, and what we all know we need to balance out our books so that we can be sustainable going forward. The development charge for Middlesex Center is $105 per meter squared. That's on the Glennon corridor all the way up to Amiens. As soon as you cross Amiens, you get into Strathroy-Caradoc. For the next piece of property, the development charge, if that was in the area, is $176 per square meter. It goes up it's like a 60% increase. If we want development anywhere, and Strathroy doesn't have a lot of extra land, if you want development anywhere else in our municipality, our development charges are going to be 60% higher. I think that's going to be a tough road to hoe. If we buy more land and we do it in Mount Bridges, what will be like, I remember Councillor Pelkman talking about the North Strathroy Park and how it took 20 years to sell it. We're going to be the same if we put any money in here. It's not going to help us. I just think we need to have a look, and to me, I don't think we're being competitive, and I think everything that you've said makes sense, except for the end result that we've came to.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
I agree with Councillor Wilsey that we want to be competitive, but at the same time, if there's a lot of infrastructure that has to be done, we have to pay for it. And development, in my opinion, needs to pay for it, not the taxpayers. So maybe that means our rates are a little bit higher. And I guess we won't really know until we price it out and we have industrial land for sale, whether or not it sits for 20 years. And then, I think we could probably determine a lot quicker than 20 years whether it's overpriced. But I do think that it's important that it pays for its own growth.
Okay. Any follow-up? Okay. Seeing none, there are two motions. The council approve the 2024 proposed schedule of fees and charges, and further the bylaw 8123 be referred to the consideration of bylaws for approval. Someone bring a motion. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Next is, excuse me, Finance Report 2023-49, which is recommendation to report FIN 2023-49 be received for information and the applications be approved for processing. Did you want to speak to the report first, Director Deacon?
Through the chair to council, so this is again another one of these housekeeping items. We've received an application from the proponent looking for a reduction in property taxes based on the demolition of an old house on the property. The impact has responded with the property values, and those calculations are before you. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Seeing none, however, a motion to receive the report, approve the report. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Next is the appointment of the external auditor for December 31st, 2023 for the year end. So we'll discuss this one first. Did you want to speak to the report first, Director Dakin?
Through the chair to council, so typically this would have come forward when we did our year end, but it was an oversight on my behalf. So it's before you now, because we're closing in on our year end and we need an auditor in place.
Yeah. Any questions? Councillor Kennis.
So I see in the recommendation there's a proposal to have a request for proposal after the 2023 year. Which I think would be a good time to do that, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Derbyshire.
I guess it's more a comment. I think we're, again, probably hooped because we're gonna have to do it now and it needs to be done. But this was discussed before. This was discussed last year at this time about reviewing who was actually going to be our auditor. And it was said that we would look into that before today, which, like I said, we're probably at the point where we don't have time to go out and find somebody else. I turned my mic on so people can hear me. I do understand, it's said it's an oversight, but I mean, it's one of those things where we did discuss this. This was something discussed by council about having someone else come in to do this. So I don't know what to do about this year, but I am definitely in favor of finding someone else for next year.
Any other comments? Sorry, Director Dakin.
I'm through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire. I'm more than happy if we want to, we can go out to proposal for 2023 and 2020 and beyond, if that's council's decision. It's just, it'll prolong the year end, that's all.
Can I ask a question, Councillor? How long would it prolong it by, Director Dakin?
Depends. So if we were to put it together, obviously we're coming into December, so I wouldn't suspect any firms would be quoting until January. So we'd close in, say, mid-January, late January. A report could be brought to council by February, and then auditor could be approved in February, and they start their work. So typically a firm would start in December, because their year end is December, so they would just be starting probably 2 months behind.
Okay, Councillor Kennis.
I'm concerned that we would start seeking an auditor at this time of the year. I mean, BDO is a reputable company that does good work. I agree that we should get a proposal periodically to see whether the fees are appropriate, but certainly in terms of reputation, BDO's reputation is as strong as any accounting firm out there. So we've got so many things on the go, and to search for another audit firm at this time, I just think it's piling more things on, so.
Okay. Councilor Derbyshire, then we'll.
Okay, that's not, I agree. I'm not saying it, I'm just kind of pointing out that we've been left to this point. BDO is reputable. The point of somebody else was just other eyes seeing something that hasn't seen the same thing for 10 years. You know, just, you never know what someone else might pick. I'm not putting out the motion that we go to somebody else this year, because I agree with you. I think we're too late in the game to switch quarterbacks, so.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion that, someone to bring a motion to accounting firm BDO Canada LLP, Sarnia office be appointed as the municipality's external auditor for the December 31st, 2023 year end. And further, that staff be directed to prepare a request for proposal for qualified auditing services for the years ending 2024, 2027. Someone to bring the motion. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pammer. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Oh, I apologize, missed the bold type. And also that bylaw 102-23 be referred to the bylaws section of the agenda for approval. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Kennis, all in favor? Carried. Just need bolder type so I can read it. Next is building and planning, which is 11.31, tender award. Update to the Strathroy-Caradoc zoning bylaw. Recommendation that council receive the report BBP-2023. Tender award. Update to the Strathroy-Caradoc zoning bylaw for information. Director Hoff, did you want to speak to the report first?
Thank you, Richard. So this is just a brief report on the award of a tender to update the Strathroy-Caradoc zoning bylaw. So on November 21st, the Committee of the Whole for the County of Middlesex did approve our official plan amendment number 14. So that provides for a number of significant amendments and updates to our official plan. The province requires us to update our zoning bylaw within 3 years after that. This was anticipated by staff, so staff have already put funds into our operating account for this project. We tendered it, we received 3 bids. The firm GL Richards is the firm that I'm making a recommendation on. They came in under budget, and they were well received by staff in terms of our evaluation, as well as we invited them for an interview process, and they impressed us on their comments to that. I know that there's been a number of legislative changes that we've kind of held back on making changes to our zoning on, and so the intent is that this project would clean up our approach on ARUs as through Bill 23, which is much needed, as well as making and implementing some of the official plan changes that were made in OPA 14. And I know there was some comments about, why now when the provincial policy statement isn't yet completed. I will note that the provincial policy statement is really at a very high level, and so they might provide for additional opportunities to sever the land, but those lands still need to be rezoned. And so what happens in the zoning bylaw isn't really impacted by the high-level policy directions that happen through the PPS. And so that's why we think it's appropriate to go forward with this project at this time. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Wilsey.
Just looking at the 3 bids, and I see the ranking that's there. On the tender update, it says we interviewed the 2 lowest scoring bids. Why did we only do 2 interviews and exclude the bidder who received the highest out of our rankings?
Okay. Director Hoff.
Sorry, so my report, it mentions the evaluation team invited the 2 best bidders to the 1-hour interview.
Yeah, I understand that, I read that.
Right.
But also looking at the score, WSP scored the lowest. They were one of the people you interviewed. JL Richards was 2nd highest. You interviewed them. You did not interview MHBC according to the report, which was the highest ranking score.
Okay, sorry, that's a typo. I apologize. The WSP and Monteith are inverted. So WSP and JL Richards were the highest bidders, so it's a technical, I missed something in my report. Apologies. The MHBC was the lowest bidder, was the 65.3 score.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, there are two motions that council received report BBP 2023 tender award update to the Strathroy-Caradoc zoning bylaw for information, and further the council award the Strathroy-Caradoc zoning bylaw update project to GL Richards, the amount of $60,035.11. Bring the motion. Councilor, are you bringing the motion, Councilor Wilsey?
Yeah, I am bringing the motion. I just wanted to amend it that we correct the report to show the proper scores.
Okay, thank you. Yep. We'll take care of that. So you bring the motion, second by Councilor Canis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Excuse me. Next is 11.3, the revised local service and oversizing policy, December 2023. Motion to receive the report first. Councilor Canis, second by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Speak to the report. Director Hupp.
Thank you, Worship. I'll be short here. So this has been referred in front of council on two other occasions, September 5th and November 6th. So staff took back the comments that were made at council on November 6th, amended the oversizing policy to reflect those comments, and now have a revised policy for consideration by council. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, motion that council approves the local services oversizing policy, and further the bylaw 86-23 local service oversizing policy be referred to the bylaws section of the agenda for approval. Someone to bring the motion? Councilor Brandon, second by Councilor Canis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Next, community services. Construction tender award to Fire Hall Station 1. First is a motion to receive the report. So I'm bring a motion to receive the report. Councilor Dennis. Second by Councilor Pelkman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Director Littleborn, did you want to speak to the report?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be quite brief with regards to the report. I'm not going to go through the background, as I'm pretty sure we're all relatively familiar with it. I'll get right down to the awarding of the tender to Tradition Construction Incorporated, A-Link Architecture, who's the firm that we have engaged to design and develop the construction drawings, independently scored all of the bids. Tradition Construction scored the highest, as well as had the lowest bid. So I'm available for any questions.
Questions? Yep. Councilor Derbyshire.
So it is what it is. We do what we want with it. I guess what kind of caught me off guard was at the end where it says we're going to use $3.4 million in development charges. I will say this, I did ask on 3 separate occasions how we were going to fund this and whether DC charges were going to be any part of this. I was told on all 3, no, we can't use the DC charges, and if we do, it will be very little. We haven't set aside for this. So it was kind of a surprise to me when I get the email today saying, oh, well, in 2019, we fully discussed this, and here's how we're going to fund it. So you go through the DC charges, and this is how we come up with this program. To me, all I asked is, how are we going to pay for this thing? You know, I mean, when I look at it, I'm going to just be honest. I think we're building the hall in the wrong spot. I think Mount Bridges needs it. I do think they need it more than this. If we're looking at that we need and want a hall, Mount Bridges needs it. Strathroy can expand, but build it where you want. When asked, how are we going to fund this? can we use DC charges? The answer was, no, we can't. We haven't allotted any. And then magically, as if it were Christmas and Santa appeared, I got $3 million in the bottom of this list. That's very frustrating and doesn't feel overly transparent, and kind of like maybe it's done to make someone look foolish.
Councilor Derbyshire,
What would you like?
Can you just, but I be careful with your tone and your questioning, please?
Sure.
Thank
I'll
you.
just end it here for now, but I would like an explanation how we come up with $3.4 million on this deal. And if you want to answer it, John, go right ahead.
We'll take the tone down a little bit, because there may be...
I would just like to say, not one person sitting here said, we can pay for it with DC charges.
Fair enough.
So,
We'll get an answer.
you can see where it's very frustrating when we're supposed to be open, honest, and transparent, and nobody comes out with it.
Okay, we'll get the answer. Director Dakin or someone, did you have a response?
So first, let me apologize. I did, again, look at this. So as you pointed out, in 2019, this was part of our DC study. DC studies did do a look at the replacement, and at that point, it was set up as 50% BTE, or benefiting from the existing. So therefore, half of it could become available. That was an oversight on my behalf, and I apologize for that and the confusion that it's caused. One of the things will be, going forward, I will not try to answer those kinds of questions on the fly. That was my fault, and I accept that responsibility. But given the understanding that basically this is using now the square footage, there is basically 46% of this building is oversizing based on the growth in the area, so that's why that number's come forward.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Sorry, did you have one, Councilor Canis?
Well, just comments. I mean, I understand, the concerns raised by Councillor Derbyshire, but there are positives here as well. I mean, the original estimate was something like $10 million on this project, and we're coming in at 7.4, and then adding a 10% contingency on that, and HST, which I understand we get about 85% back of the $965,000 of anticipated GST that needs to be paid. So I think those are all positive things. Certainly over the summer, since we've been talking about this, I haven't had one person in Strathroy that I've met express a negative feeling towards a new fire hall. They feel it's needed within the community. I get more negative comments about a community garden than I do about this fire hall. So I think it's time to move forward, and I am fully in favor of this project.
Yeah. Any other Deputy Mayor, sorry, Councilor Brown, good evening, apologize. Deputy Mayor, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a procedural question. So it's on the second report where A-Link did the review. So just for my own knowledge, on the last tender that we just looked at, our staff did the review and made a recommendation to us. So I guess I'm looking, why is A-Link doing that? And I guess, why is A-Link doing it? Why is A-Link doing it without our staff? I could certainly see why A-Link would be at the table. And then the document from A-Link doesn't, I mean, they have a recommendation in there, but it doesn't give me any of the process, any of the people that were involved. So, reputable firm, I've met some of their people, and they're all incredible people, but it's hard to put a great deal of faith in a report where I really have no idea what they based their opinion upon.
Director, a little more.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor McGuire, my apologies. And it's only 7:30. So the matrix was in the tender, so all of the construction companies were aware of what the evaluation would be based on. In my practice, have not inputted the matrix into my staff reports, unlike building and planning, and if that's what council would wish to see, I'm more than willing to do that moving forward. What I can tell you is the matrix consisted of 3 items, the bid value, the contractor experience, and then the project manager experience. So just very 3 minimal, it's just saying there's minimal number of evaluations, unlike the last tender you awarded with regards to building and planning's tender. The architect took the information, evaluated the information to make sure that the bid met all of the specifications needed to build the building. So made sure they had all the proper drawings, all of the proper mechanical equipment allocated. So staff don't have that expertise, so we rely on our consulting firm to do that for us. Staff do, after the consultant has done the evaluation, we have a meeting and we discuss the findings and have conversations. Staff agree with the recommendations put forward by A-Link based on those conversations. So if council would like more information with regards to the tender reports and the matrix and such, I'm more than willing to share that in the body of my reports moving forward.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brannan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think the concerns about the DCs are certainly something to be discussed. I remember in 2019 when we were first taking a look at this, that the idea of having a replaced fire station for Station 1 was being discussed. At that time, the design hadn't taken place, and I guess we hadn't really projected the square footage and the extent to which the capacity of the station would be increased, nor had we really started talking about maybe a mixed force of full-time firefighters who would be mixed in with our volunteers, and how the station would maybe be designed to anticipate that growth as well. So I think there was probably not a lot of emphasis on the role of DCs in building it at that time. But I think over time, as we've seen the capacity of the station more clearly in the design, my understanding has always been that if you increase the capacity of municipal infrastructure based on what's going to be future growth, that there would be an opportunity for DCs. So in my mind, I was always thinking that at some point in this process, DCs would become an issue, and we would have to figure out to what extent the increased capacity of the station would allow DCs to be used. In the same way that when we're oversizing a pipe to service an area of town, when we put the big pipe in, the level of service to the existing houses is still the same, but we have DC eligible expenses because the increased capacity of the pipe is there for future development 20 or 30, 40 years down the road. And maybe in our discussions of the fire station, we maybe have not been as clear as we should have been about what would happen when the capacity of the fire station was seen to be greater than we had maybe originally anticipated. So in my mind, and I know there is some confusion here, in my mind, I was thinking there would always be an opportunity for us to take a look at DCs once we had the final plans. But at the time in 2019, I don't think we're in really an opportunity to maybe envision what that might be. Maybe we should have been clearer at that point.
Okay. Any other, one more, Councillor Derbyshire, then Councillor
Okay. Do you want to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so in 2019, your estimated was, I'll turn this thing on again. So in 2019, you estimated the building to be at 17,400 square feet. Your old building at 8,700 square feet. They went through it, and you actually accounted for a new fire hall to replace that one, a new one up in the north end, and a new one for Station 2 to give you $5.7 million in DC eligible things. I believe this is, if I'm reading, like I just got this afternoon, which would have been very nice to see this long before then, but whatever. And this is at our growth, as long as our growth stays going at, what do we need here? 5,500 and something houses by 2029. Then this plan all stays in line with how it was done in 2019. We do know the housing boom is over. We're gonna sit here. Are we gonna reach 5,000? So are we using money for DCs to pull this project that we aren't actually going to receive because we're not gonna hit 5,500 houses like this plan designs? I'm not saying don't use DCs. First off, I don't even know, I would like to know how we get to 3,400. I think, according to what I can see here, this building's only allotted 1.7 million out of that kitty. That's just from what I can kind of get through here in an afternoon. This is where, when I say, how are we gonna fund this thing? Before we go and approve, let's build a fire hall, let's figure out how to fund it. Like, somebody put some work into this to say what the DC charges were back in 2019. This never came forward from anybody to show, look, we've got this much in DC charges. Even if it isn't exactly the number, we're still over $1 million to go towards our thing. I think I've said all I can say. I'm done with this project now. Do whatever you want with it. I just want you to know this isn't right, what was done here.
Thank you. Councillor Pelkman, and I think we need to bring one more, then we'll bring this to a vote.
Thank you. You know, what's on the table tonight is the decision to award the tender, not on how we're gonna fund it. That's obviously gonna be a decision that we have to reach yet, and how it's gonna be done, and so I think there's opportunity for that discussion. The one thing that I will say about, since Councillor Derbyshire brought it up about Mount Bridges, I don't think the question is are we building one or the other? I think the answer is we all know we have to build both. And as it turns out, this just happens to be the one that's ready to go. We don't have property bought yet for one of Mount Bridges. We don't have servicing to wherever that property is gonna be, with the amount of debt that we may be taking on. We may have that substantially paid for by the time we ever get to the point that Mount Bridges is ready to go. And like I say, I'm in my head, we need to build both. It's not a question of one or the other. Previous councils have worked really hard to keep moving our community forward, and with a solid focus of reducing debt. Till now, the point of the debt is almost negligible, knowing full well it's not gonna stay that way. We knew that these projects were gonna come, and over the longer term, I always take a viewpoint that we want to try and keep our tax rates at a consistent level. And if we were to wait for every project to be an emergency, then what you're going to get is tax rates that jump up and down like crazy, as opposed to a steady incline at a sustainable rate where people can depend on it. So while we know that we've got at least 6, I can think in my head, large projects that all of us agree need to be done, we don't know how we're gonna do it yet, or how we're gonna pay for it, or in what order they're gonna be done. But this one is ready to go. Our debt levels are as low as they're ever gonna be. This was a good tender coming back, and so I'm definitely in favor of moving this project forward and getting the first of a number of large projects this council's gonna approve underway.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilsey, then we'll bring it to a vote.
So, comes back to a lot of what Councillor Pelkman said. Not against the fire hall. I think it needs to be built. Whether it has to be the first one or not, that's not a matter for tonight. My biggest thing is looking at the funding, and I see this as very similar to a building that was previously built without funding for around the same amount of money that's going on in Mount Bridges right now. And then I looked at the development charges at saying 3.4 million is going to come out of development charges. On the report that we received 2 weeks ago, we only have $384,000 in the fire development fund account. So that means that there is 3.1 million that's gonna be debt. Doesn't matter, that's out of the development charge, that's not counting the rest of it. So we have let's call it $400,000 we have for a fire hall. We don't know what the term is we're proposing, we don't know what our interest rates are, we don't know where we're funding it, we don't know anything. And we're going to approve to spend this money and put shovels in the ground and have no financing in place. I understand it says it has 3.4 million in development charges. I don't know where they're coming from because there's only 384,000 in that development account. I think we need to defer this at least to the multi-year budget, like everything else we've been doing for the last few months, till we can figure out how we're going to pay for it before we just approve it.
Okay, one more, Councillor Brennan.
I'd like to call the vote and ask that it be a recorded vote.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brennan is called for the vote. There are two motions. The council approve the awarding of the tender to Tradition Construction Inc. for a value of $7,428,200 plus HST. And further, the council approve a 10% contingency fund to address unforeseen circumstances that may arise for a value of $742,820. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
I call a point of whatever term I need. Policy procedure bylaw points out that anybody putting that motion on the floor to call it to a vote is effectively stopping the discussion of council. That needs to be seconded and require a 2/3 majority vote of council to pass.
On reflection, you're correct, Deputy Mayor, and I missed that part. So we need a seconder to bring to a vote. Councillor Pelkman, Deputy Mayor is correct, we need a 2/3 vote to put it to a vote. I'll have to record the vote. All in favor of putting it to a vote? Yep. Opposed, if any?
So I believe that was 5 in favor,
Yes,
with yourself as the tiebreaker, so that would pass.
it's a 2/3.
Oh, sorry, no, then that would not pass.
It's a 2/3. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Any other further comments? Councillor Palmer.
I'm just wondering if staff could answer the question as to what would be the implication of deferring until after we're done our capital budget, deferring this decision.
Yep. Director Lilmore.
Through the chair to Councillor Palmer, we would have to go back out to tender. I would anticipate you would see a 10 to 15% increase in the cost, simply because we've got favorable costing now, which was planned on having a construction start during the winter season when there are less construction projects taking place. So there's the availability for construction workers. The other item that does happen is if this becomes a norm of council deferring, very difficult for contractors to decide to bid on our projects. This was a very complicated project. They spent a lot of time, the contractors spent a lot of time and energy pulling together their bids, and it would be very, this is the first one, but if it happens again where we have this, if we develop a pattern, it could become detrimental to getting some bids. So that's what could happen.
Yeah, Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, so to CAO McKibben, when do you think that where in the budget process will the capital projects discussion come up? Are we talking 2 weeks away? Are we talking 3 months away? Because just in consideration of what Director Lieboard is telling us.
Through the chair to council, so based on discussions that the mayor and I had today and the meeting on the 13th, it sounds like the capital discussion will not, like the in-depth capital discussion will not happen until the new year, to the January budget meeting.
Councillor Wilsey.
Just a comment listening to what Director Lieboard was saying. I'm going to just think that if we quit tendering unbudgeted products or projects, then we probably won't have to keep deferring things until the budget. If we wait till something's budgeted, we won't have to keep deferring it until the budget, because it will already be budgeted.
Okay, seeing no more motions, though, I'm going to, Councillor Derbyshire, I apologize.
I just have a comment. My comment is, we're here to serve the people and do right with the people's money. If you did this with your house, what we're doing now, your husband, your wife would be so angry that you just went out and did whatever you wanted with no budget. But yet, we are doing this, and we do it a lot now. We have no idea what the tax ramifications are. We didn't even know that we had DC charges until 2 hours ago, or 4 hours, whenever this email was sent out. To what extent we have. We can do what we want. I just want it on the record. I think this is a bad idea going forward to do what we're doing with money, where we just spend it without knowing what the ramifications are. And if you do know what they are, then please let me in on it, and then I can go on with your motion.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think one more Deputy Mayor, because we've gone around on this one.
So what is, if it deferred for 2 weeks, so that the finance director has a chance to answer some of these questions, because I think they're extremely valuable questions, what does that do to our project, Your Worship? Can we
Director Littleborn, I think you already spoke to that, but can you speak about a delay?
Why does it have to be tonight? This is my question.
No, you asked about the delay, correct? You wanted to speak to the delay. CEO McKibben.
If we could, in any tender document that goes out, there's a set timeline that the submission is valid for. So maybe if we could clarify with Director Littleborn, is that 30 days?
The tender, excuse me, the tender gives us 90 days to make the decision on, they'll hold the pricing for 90 days. After 90 days, we'd have to go to we'd have to retender the contract.
So when?
Councillor Palmer.
When did the clock start ticking? Is the question.
Yeah.
When was day one?
Through the chair, the day we received the tenders, which would have been, I want to say November 23rd. Somewhere in and around there.
Okay. Seeing no more, I don't see any more.
Through.
Okay.
Just one, sorry, this is one of the reasons why we have the architect here. We actually have to execute the contract in 90 days, not award the tender in 90 days. So we would have to award the tender, then get all of the contract documents in order, and then get all of the parties to sign those contracts. So we may only have, 60, 75 days, depending on when we can get the tender approved, right? And then we would have to have the contracts come back to council for signatures.
Okay, Councillor Derbyshire.
Can this be a recorded vote, just so we know who did what, and then we can...
Yep, so I'm going to read the motions. Did it bring forward, was it seconded?
No, so we don't have a mover and a seconder for the second.
Okay, so we haven't been motion or a second, right? Okay, so we need a motion to council approve the awarding of the tender to Tradition Construction Inc. for a value of $7,428,200 plus HST, and further, the council approve a 10% contingency fund to address unforeseen circumstances that may arise for a value of $742,820. Someone to bring the motion. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Kennis. We have a call for a recorded vote. Councillor Hippel? Councillor Kennis?
Yes.
Councillor Wilsey?
Opposed.
Councillor Brennan?
In favor.
Councillor Pelkman?
In favor.
Councillor Derbyshire?
Opposed?
Councillor Pammer,
Opposed?
Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Opposed?
My vote's not needed, but I will go on record being in favor.
Yes, you do need to vote.
In favor. Next is, 11.42, purchase of forestation protect air purifiers. Motion to council receive report CS-2023-35 for information. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor of receiving the report. Director Lilborn.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report in front of you this evening is just acting on one of those recommendations identified in the indoor air quality report. We have had conversations with Chief Smith as well as a company called TFT, which is Task Force Tips firefighting equipment. They do have air purifiers specifically designed for fire stations and the environments in which those units would be exposed to. There are several types of air handling equipment, air purifiers out there. These are the ones that I've been able to identify that are built in such a fashion that would be able to sustain the environment in which they'll be placed in. We are recommending the purchase of 4, and the reason for 4 is the intention is to put one inside the administration area of Station 1, as well as by the bunker gear of all 3 stations. This is just one step moving forward on a series of a number of steps to deal with the indoor air quality that we have in the 3 stations.
Any questions? Seeing none, someone will bring a motion that council approve the purchase of forestation protect air purifiers from Task Force Tips firefighting equipment for a total cost $26,616 plus HST. Someone to bring the motion? Councillor Pammer, second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. .5, report from the CAO, extension of animal control agreement. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Wilsey. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. CAO McKibben, did you wish to speak to the report?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have animal control agreement currently with Logo Animal Care Center, and we've had an agreement with them since 2017. That agreement is coming to an end at the end of this year. This report before council is just to seek a 3-month extension till March, so that allow us time to go out for a tender for a new animal control, go out for tender for an animal control provider. And so this is just seeking council's approval for a 3-month extension to our current provider until that new agreement can come before council.
Any questions? Seeing none, we have a motion that council approve the extension of the animal control agreement with Local Animal Care Center for 3 months ending March 31st, 2023. Someone to bring the motion, Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Reports from boards and committees. There are 2 in front of us this evening. St. Clair Conservation Authority and Museum Advisory Committee. Motion to receive the reports from boards and committees for information. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Pammer. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Deputy Mayor McGuire. County Council report.
Thank you, Your Worship. As mentioned earlier, at County Council, we had quite a discussion about homelessness prevention and London Middlesex Housing Corp. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of the information that I received. The homelessness prevention program being operated, I believe, through London Middlesex Housing Corp. You might be able to correct me, I know you sit on that board. The homelessness prevention program?
No, that's actually a city.
City? A city?
County.
Okay, that's a city county.
LMHC, London Middlesex Housing is a separate entity, but it's a joint effort.
Okay, thank you. So total funding for that for 2023 was $873,000. And the county portion of that was $210,000. And I just bring that to light because that's taking the money, the levy, the tax that's collected. So, you know, we are involved in homelessness prevention as one of the 7 municipalities in the county. We expect that funding to remain consistent through 2024. London Middlesex Housing Corporation, and your worship, I know you sit on that committee, they're operating quite a few units in the city of London and the county, over 3,200 units in total, and 159 of those are in the county, many of them in the Strathroy and Mount Bridges area. And there's also community housing units being operated by the county, 564 of those. 301 of those are rent geared to income. Mount Bridges has 16 community housing units, 4 of them which are rent geared to income, and Strathroy has 236. And 156 of those are rent geared to income. So, you know, we frequently look at this table how we're doing and what we're involved with, but I think it's important that we all remember we are involved, heavily involved, at the county level.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor, we'd both be remiss if we didn't mention that we have a new warden.
Oh,
well, I'll let you do that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So last Tuesday was the warden's our inaugural meeting, and at that meeting we elect a new warden. So Ina DeViet is our new warden, the mayor of Middlesex Center. And then there was a reception for her following that. So congratulations to Ina. I know she will do a wonderful job for us. And we had a kind of a sad but good farewell for Kathy, the former warden. She absolutely did an incredible job in the year that I was able to watch her at the table. So I appreciate both of those county councilors for the work that they've done, and we have a new warden.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So for inquiries and comments, we'll start here with Councillor Hippel.
Thank you. I'm actually not feeling the best. Sorry, Councillor Kenneth, so I'm so that is why I've been pretty quiet. I'm going to let you skip me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kenneth.
There have been a number of activities taking place and events over the past couple of weeks. One that I'll mention was the night market that took place on the last Friday in November, and commend staff for the organization and the BIA and others involved in running it. It was unbelievable to see the number. It was a cold night, but unbelievable to see the number of people walking the streets that evening and getting involved in the community. And it's really heartening to see the number of young families that want to get involved in the community. So it was a good night, and there were other events that have taken place which I'll let others speak about.
Councillor Wilsey.
Yeah, I've just been thinking over the last few weeks just about finances, and everyone knows I'm fairly focused on finances. That's one of the things that I speak on fairly regularly. But just listening to different comments and through our strategic planning session and everything we've going through, and I've got a few comments. I'm just trying to put them all together. The first one I've got is, I've heard Councillor Buckman say on a number of occasions that last time we thought we had a lot of money, it turned out we didn't, and the accounts were actually empty, and there was some very close issues with having that. Recently, Councillor Brennan has said that we're in the best financial shape we've been in for the last 23 years. Then when we got the report from Director Dakin, on October 27th, this year we spent more than half of our reserves. We have a large amount of debt that's coming up for some of the road projects that we've done that hasn't actually shown up on the books yet because we're paying for it in cash. So with all of those things put together, I've done a little bit of thinking. I put a motion together that I'd like to propose, that staff prepare a report indicating the actual cash bank account balances and how these relate to the reserve and the development charge account balances, shown on the report presented to council on October 23rd. And also that report include details on any other accounts that are holding cash and how they relate to the numbers that council's shown, and that the report be presented during the finance process, hopefully in January of 2024. I don't know if that date needs to be adjusted. So I want to defer that to staff if that date is okay for January, just so that we can see how we actually are with cash and statements.
Yeah, CEO McKibben, did you want to comment on that? And I have a comment. Follow, yeah.
If I can through the chair, I think I'm going to need that reread to me, just so I know what is being asked of staff, if I could.
Yeah. Essentially, I can reread what I did. Do you want word for word what I read off, or just because I said staff prepare a report indicating the actual cash bank account balances and how these relate to reserve development charge account balances shown on the report presented to council on October 23rd. So that's our cash, our reserves, our development charges, all the places where we have all the cash, just how that relates to actual bank balances and what we have in the accounts. Just trying to make those numbers make sense, because when I looked at the numbers on the FIR report, it says we have 67 million, but then if we look at the reserve statements, we only have 40. So there's a $20 million difference there, and I just don't understand financial accounting well enough to put those numbers together and see what position we're actually in. So this is to help you understand that.
I wonder, did you have a seconder for your motion?
Yep.
Councilor Derbyshire, we can discuss. Is there any questions or comments? Councilor Pelkman.
Just like I feel that this motion should be done as a notice of motion to council and not done this way. It's too complicated to decide on the fly.
Okay. Any other comments, concerns? We'll go with Councilor Kennis and Councilor Brennan.
Yeah, not exactly sure what to say, but it's certainly a motion like this implies a distrust in the staff of the municipality, and I find that troubling.
Okay. Councilor Brennan.
As my comment was mentioned by Councillor Wilsey, what I'll do is maybe ask the question through the mayor to either the CAO or finance director. In terms of third-party assessments of our financial position and our strength as a municipality by provincial authorities, I guess through the mayor to Councillor Dakin, we get reports talking about our financial health from the province. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Brennan, that's true.
Okay, and then just the follow-up question then would be, and I've been on council for a while, but in the time that you've been with us, Director Dakin, what's the trend been in those reports, and what's our current status as basically told to us by the province?
Through the chair to Councillor Brennan. So those reports have been trending more favorably than previous reports. So each year it seems to be getting stronger.
Councilor Derbyshire, then Councilor Palmer.
I guess when we talk about a distrust, there probably is a bit of distrust. I will bring up this and say, I was coming around to the fact that maybe we were headed in the right direction. Then this lambastes me today.
I just need to ask, we all need to be careful of the language that we're using here this evening. I just ask, okay, just let's all be careful of the language that we use and ensure that it's parliamentary and it's in the tone. It's okay to ask questions, but I'm very bothered when we start using questions like trust and that. So questions okay, Councilor Derbyshire? I just ask that we be very careful with our language.
I'm just gonna say it out loud. send me to the IC then. Like, honest to God. I'm trying to work here. I'm trying to work with you people. I give everything that I can give. I've asked 3 times, how are we doing this? Where are we doing this? Where's the money coming from? Then you get this on the day that we're supposed to sit here and do and read this. And then don't feel like there's mistrust or that you didn't know about this for months. And I'm not blaming the other counselors. I'm going to throw it right on staff and say, you knew this was here. And if you didn't know that was here, then something's
Councilor
going.
Derbyshire, just be careful, okay?
But when do we speak the truth in this house?
Well, we can speak the truth, but we can use.
Well, then I'm speaking the truth, and you're telling me to watch what I'm doing. This is no different. If you were sitting at a job and this happened, where would you end up?
Yeah, CEO McKibben.
Through your worship to council. So the report that staff brought forward, council had approved with the fire hall, already approved $10 million within the 2024 budget for this project. So this was a good news story for staff to bring forward, that upon review, further review, that there is funding within the development charges to help offset the cost. Right? So council has approved in the 2024 budget $10 million. So this is the first step in the further conversation that's going to take place. So this is not staff hiding any information. This is staff sharing a good news story with council that there is funding available within, that this project qualifies for DC funding and the proposed amount that is available.
Any other, Councilor Derbyshire?
That's the spin we're going with?
I don't know.
This is a good news story?
No.
No, like, I mean, come on now.
Okay, now.
I asked 3 times about DC charges long before today.
Yeah.
So it's not a good news story.
Okay, I think we've already debated, in deference to everyone here, we've already debated and voted on the fire hall. We've discussed that. There's a second motion, Councillor Palmer.
I'm just wondering if Councillor Wilsey's questions, rather than coming out as a separate motion in the middle of a council meeting, would be something that we should have addressed at the budget meeting. And at that point and in that format, when we're talking about the budget as a whole, the report that he has asked for could be brought up and we could discuss it in that context. That's just a friendly.
Councillor Wilsey.
That was actually the third point of my motion, that it was brought up during one of the finance meetings in January for our budget.
Okay. So we have a second motion on the floor. Are there any comments or questions? Deputy Mayor McGuire.
I just have to go back, Your Worship, and I ask you to just turn your mind to, we're at item 14, inquiries and comments, and we're dealing with a very lengthy motion. And is that really where we should be? I think one of the other councillors mentioned this. Actually, I know one of the other councillors mentioned it because I didn't think of it on my own.
Well, I will suggest that in the future, when we redo the policy and procedures, that inquiries and comments may be amended, but the way it is now, there's nothing in the procedures on their inquiries or comments that limits anyone from making a motion. But that is something in the future. Then we get a new clerk, will be remedied right away. But we have a second motion from Councillor Wilsey. All in favor of Councillor Wilsey's motion? Opposed, if any? Okay. Defeated. Councillor Brennan.
I just want to compliment staff for the good work they put on the hosting the Biz After Biz meeting that we had last week. It was a lot of fun up at the Gemini Sportsplex. The municipality does a lot of work to try and maintain good relations with the business community, and it was a prime example of that. So I just want to thank the staff for a lot of hard work. Each of the departments had special displays to help the business community better understand what each department does, and a lot of fun was had. There were some costumes involved too, so it was very nicely done.
Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, thank you. Just want to remind the public that our parking bylaw is now in effect for the winter, and that would include people parking on the boulevard, and just for people who do park vehicles on the boulevard to be very mindful of the sightline issues it creates along certain intersections. Shouldn't be doing in the first place, but I know sometimes you have to put a vehicle someplace, but it should not be used as a long-term parking solution. And so, yeah, maybe as our bylaw officers are going about enforcing the winter ban, that they could take note of people who maybe are using the boulevards as permanent parking solutions to address that situation as well, because I see it happening a lot more.
Councilor Derbyshire.
I guess I just want to say I got a new seat. Kind of like to know how that went down, but maybe somebody can answer that one for me. Thanks.
You and I discussed that, Councilor Derbyshire.
Just want you to say it out loud.
Okay, yep, said it out loud. Councilor Pammer.
Just a couple of comments as a follow-up to tonight's discussion about homelessness, and thank you to Deputy McGuire for giving us an update on the county. I just want to remind the public that we do have a community navigator who is at the public library. So if anybody is experiencing homelessness or at risk of losing their housing, then I encourage them, or their support people, to encourage them to reach out to Josh at the public library. I had a chat with him today, and he confirmed that they've been generally, successful, where people come forward and in need emergency shelter or at risk of losing their housing, that they've been very successful in getting them into the programs that are available for people in Strathroy-Caradoc. So just want to remind everybody that that's available.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McGuire.
I'm good, Your Worship, thank you.
Yep, and I'm okay too. I apologize. Schedule of meetings. Next meeting is Tuesday, December 12th. Finance Committee meeting. There will be an agenda copy for both the CAO and I, and the next regular council meeting is on December 18th. Motion to move into closed session. A motion to council move into closed session at 8:17 for the purposes of discussing the following. One item in accordance with council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes. One item pursuant to section 239E of the Municipal Act as amended regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Motion to move into closed session. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Take a short recess. Welcome back, everyone. We need a motion to close session adjourn at 8:59 PM and open session resume. So I'm going to bring the motion. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. Council moved met in closed session to discuss the following. One item in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes, and one item pursuant to Section 239E of the Municipal Act as amended regarding litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or a local board. Recommendation that the direction in closed session be approved. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. Reading of the bylaws.
The first bylaw for consideration this evening is bylaw number 8123, which is the bylaw to establish fees and charges for services, activities, and the use of property provided by the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc. We are seeking first, second, and third and final reading of bylaw 8123.
Motion that bylaw 8123 receive first, second, and third, and final reading. Councilor Canis, second by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Carried.
Bylaw number 8623 is the bylaw to authorize the local servicing oversizing policy, seeking first, second, and third and final reading.
Motion that bylaw 86-23 receive first, second, and third, and final reading. Councilor Palmer, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Carried.
The next bylaw is number 8923, which is the bylaw to provide for the construction of Bearing Drain 2023, and we are just seeking first and second reading.
Motion that bylaw 8923 receive first and second reading. Councilor Canis, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Carried.
Bylaw number 9223 is the bylaw to provide for the construction of Winter's Drain 2023, seeking first and second reading.
Motion that bylaw 9223 receive first and second reading. Councilor Canis, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Carried.
Bylaw number 9923 regarding the execution of the temporary use agreement will actually return to the next meeting alongside bylaw 9823, which was authorized by council. That was just the zoning bylaw amendment that needs to come back. So we'll move on to bylaw number 10123, which is the bylaw to authorize the execution of the renewal of the agreement between Animal Care Center Lobo and the municipality regarding animal control services. So seeking first, second, and third and final reading.
Motion that bylaw 101-23 receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councilor Pelkman, second by Councilor Wilsey. All in favor? Carried.
Bylaw number 10223 is the bylaw to appoint the municipal auditor for the 2023 fiscal year. We're receiving first, second, and third and final reading.
Bylaw 102-23 receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor Palmer. All in favor? Carried.
And bylaw number 123 is to confirm the proceedings of this evening's meeting, December 4th, 2023. First, second, and third and final reading.
Bylaw 100-23 receive first, second, third, and final reading. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. Motion that the December 4th, 2023 regular council meeting adjourn at 21:03. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Carried.
Are we done?